The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency.
To suggest the first debate was painful for the United States is an understatement. President Biden's performance showed all too clearly he isn't up to serving another 4 years in office, and for the good of the country, more even than their own party, Democrats have some hard thinking to do about whether he needs to be replaced at the top of the ticket.
Dealing with everything we have to do with...
Mr. Biden lost the debate in the first 10 minutes. He failed to speak clearly and couldn't complete a coherent sentence.
Look,
And his blank stare when Mr. Trump was speaking suggested a man struggling to recall what he's been prepped to say, but who no longer has the memory to do it.
We have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America.
That's not to say he didn't score some points against Mr. Trump, but without a script and without his usual teleprompter, the president looked and sounded lost.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
As a result, Mr. Trump won the debate with what was a fairly mediocre performance.
He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window.
The former president was strong on inflation and the economy, where he knows he has a strong advantage.
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation.
And Mr. Biden's response that the former president caused inflation by the way he handled COVID was preposterous.
He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months, and then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing.
Mr. Trump also won the exchanges on taxes, linking his 2017 tax cut to the economy's strong pre-COVID growth.
When we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country.
Mr. Trump was also right to link Mr. Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan with Mr. Putin's decision to invade Ukraine.
He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in.
Ambitious dictators move when they smell weakness.
President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
But Mr. Trump also ducked question after question.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police. Just to finish what he said, if I might. Just so you understand.
And his exaggerations and falsehoods kept coming.
He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China.
The former president was coached to keep his cool and stick to the Biden record, which he did. But as the debate went on, he couldn't resist returning to his self-pitying line about the 2020 election being stolen.
The fraud and everything else was ridiculous.
Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local. None.
When he was asked by moderator Jake Tapper what it was that he meant when he said he has every right to go after political opponents, the former president responded shrewdly.
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation.
But he couldn't leave it there.
He could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things.
And it's this sense of personal grievance and fear of 4 more years of mayhem that's the reason that Mr. Trump isn't winning by more than he is.
The choice is going to be between a guy that fights for people and another guy that wants to rip this country apart.
After the first debate, the bitter truth for Democrats is Mr. Trump's liabilities may not matter if Mr. Biden is the party's nominee. Mr. Trump at least looked vigorous, reminding voters of the pre-COVID economy. In contrast, Mr. Biden looked feeble. A man no American should want going head-to-head with Mr. Putin or China's Xi Jinping.
It was a slow start. There's no question about that. But I thought it was a strong finish.
All of this presents Democrats with an excruciating choice. Mr. Biden has the delegates to win the nomination, and the only way he won't be the nominee is if he decides to withdraw. The question is whether any Democrats will now break from the party-wide omerta and call on the president to consider stepping aside.
His biggest issue that he had to prove to the American people was that he had the energy, he had the stamina, and he didn't do that.
At a local Waffle House after the debate, Mr. Biden was asked how he thought it went.
I think we did well.